Hi, second graders. This is Miss D. I hope you had a wonderful spring break with your family. You had a lot of time to spend together and spend outside doing things that you love. Today, I'm joining you from my house to read aloud the first myBook text of the week. And so today, what we're going to do together is you are going to be able to listen to me read the text "See Otter Pups" out loud to you. And then after we're done reading, you and a grown-up at your house will then use the information in the text that we read together to complete your Monday activity in your take-home packets. And so what you're going to need while we do this reading together is you're going to need your myBook text. And so I want you to find your myBook text, and I want you to turn to page 36, and that's where we're going to start reading our "See Otter Pups." As we read together, you're going to remember to follow along as I read the text to you. Sometimes we're going to stop and I'm going to ask you a question. You're also going to need a pencil or a highlighter, some sort of writing utensil to help you annotate and underline and circle things in the text as we read together. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds to grab your myBook text, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, excellent. Sorry, my dog sneezed. Before we get started reading "See Otter Pups" today, we're going to talk a little bit about the genre of our text today. And so you can see here on my screen that our genre of "See Otter Pups" is going to be an informational text. So an informational text, if you remember from previous texts that you've read with your teacher, is a nonfiction text. What this means is it gives information or facts about a particular topic. So in this case, our topic that we're going to be reading about in this text is "See Otter Pups." And we're going to be reading about details and facts about sea otter pups. We're going to be looking for and seeing lots of text features that will help us to better understand the topic. And then finally, as we look through the photographs in our text today, you're going to be able to see and notice lots of labels that will help to clarify any information that might be confusing about our topic. And so as we continue to look through and think about our text today, you're going to notice in this blue box there are 4 power words that we're going to be looking for and reading together in our text today. The first word is the word surface. And if I pull up the definition of surface, I can read that the surface of something is the top or outside of it. I often think about like the surface of a counter, right? It's going to be the very top part of that countertop, the surface. And so if I look at that word in a sentence, I can say the sentence, "The beautiful fish swam up to the surface of the pond to be fed." Another word that we're going to see in our text is the word wraps. Right? If something wraps around another thing, it winds or goes around that thing. Like he wraps a blanket around himself to keep warm, right? I bet you this weekend it was a little bit chilly, a little bit rainy. You may have wrapped yourself with a blanket to keep yourself warm. Another word that we're going to be looking for is the word attached. When things are attached, they join together. Right? These papers are attached with a staple. And the last word that we're going to look for is the word crack. You might have done this with your Easter eggs this weekend, right? Crack means to break or split. You have to crack your Easter eggs open to get the candy inside, right? Or you have to crack the coconut open to eat it. Okay, so let's go through these 4 power words together. Ready? I want you to read it out loud with me. Here we go. Surface, wraps, attached, crack. Remember, just like with your teacher in your classroom, anytime we get to one of those highlighted power words in our text, I would like for you to read that word out loud. All right? Are you ready to get started reading? Excellent. Before we get started reading, we're going to build a little background with thinking about what an ocean habitat is, because as we read "See Otter Pups," you're going to be reading and paying close attention to how do the sea otters, both the mother and the pups, use their habitat to survive. So we need to know a little bit about what an ocean habitat is. So we're going to be listening to a little clip that talks a little bit about the ocean habitat. And with that background knowledge, it'll help us to pay close attention to the information in the text to help us know and better understand how sea otters may use their ocean habitat to survive.
An ocean is a large body of salty water. Many different kinds of plants and animals call the ocean home. Some animals live in the air and water near the shore. Many animals live in deep water. Some ocean animals have special parts to help them live in water, such as gills and fins. The ocean is full of life, and scientists believe there are still living things to be discovered in this watery habitat.
Excellent. So you read a little bit about how many animals live around the ocean habitat, and today we're going to read specifically about those sea otters that we might find around the ocean. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So if your myBook isn't open, go ahead and open it now to page 36. I want you to follow along and listen to me read aloud the text, Sea Otter Pups. Ready? Here we go. Sea Otter Pups by Ruth Owen. I'm going to slide my picture up to the top so you can, maybe to the bottom. There we go. Okay, here we go. Fingers ready, eyes ready, listen. Meet a sea otter pup. A mother sea otter and her pup are floating in the ocean. The mother otter is resting on her back. The little pup is cuddled up on his mother's belly, just above the water. Mother sea otter pup. What is a sea otter? Sea otters are animals that live in the ocean. They are about as big as a medium-sized dog. Sea otters have very thick fur. The fur helps keep the otter's body warm and dry in the cold water. Adult sea otter, thick fur. Adult sea otter size. So let's stop right here on page 39, and I want you to think about how does a sea otter's fur help them in the cold water? If a grown-up is sitting next to you, I want you to share your answer with the person sitting next to you. Talk to them about how the sea otters use their fur to help them in the cold water of the ocean. Excellent. So I should have heard something, or you should have said something like, sea otters use their very thick fur to help their body keep warm and dry when they're in that cold ocean water, right? I can see that sentence or that fact or detail right here in this paragraph where it says, sea otters have very thick fur. The fur helps keep the otter's body warm and dry in the cold, right? So if I were going to highlight that, I could highlight it like this, or I could underline that sentence that tells me how they use their fur in the cold ocean water. All right, let's go ahead and turn our page. Let's pay attention right here. We're going to start right up here at the word where. Here we go. Ready? Listen. Where do sea otters live? Although sea otters live in the ocean, they stay close to the shore. The yellow parts of this map show where sea otters live. Where sea otters live. Here's the shore. Here are the sea otters. Next page. A newborn pup. A mother sea otter gives birth in the ocean to just one pup at a time. After the pup is born, she places it on her chest to keep it warm. Then she feeds it milk from her body. A pup drinks its mother's milk until it's about 4 to 6 months old. And we need to think about that paragraph. So now we start to read about this newborn pup. The mother sea otter is going to do different things to take care of her newborn pup and her young pup. I want you to think about what we just read on page 41, and I want you with your pencil or highlighter to either highlight or underline something that the mother sea otter does to help her newborn pup. Excellent. So you could say that a sea otter mother places her pup on her chest to keep it warm, right? So I could have underlined that sentence. I could have underlined, or you could have underlined, that she feeds her pup milk from her body, right? I could have highlighted or underlined that sentence, right? As we turn to page 42, I want you to be thinking about another example of how a mother sea otter helps her young pup. Go ahead and turn your page. Be ready to underline another sentence or highlight it with your highlighter. Ready? Listen. Learning to swim. A newborn sea otter cannot swim, but it can float really well. It floats on top of the water like a beach ball. The mother sea otter gives her pup swimming lessons. By the time it is about 14 weeks old, the pup is able to swim and dive. All right, thinking about how mother sea otters help their pup, I want you to underline or highlight the sentence that tells you another example of how they help their young. Excellent. So you should have underlined or highlighted the sentence right here that starts with the mother sea otter gives her pup swimming lessons, right? So I'm going to underline that. And that sentence is another example. So we read 3 examples of how sea otters help their young, right? They keep them warm by placing them on their chest. They feed them milk when they're a newborn, and they also teach them how to swim. 3 examples of how the mother sea otter helps her pup. All right, let's keep reading. Sea otter food. Ooh, this clue in the heading is going to tell me a little bit about how a sea otter may use their habitat, maybe other sea creatures in the ocean, to gather food or to help them survive. Sea otter adults and pups eat crabs, clams, and other shellfish. The mother otter dives under the water to hunt for food. She teaches the pup how to dive and find shellfish too. I read in this page how the sea otter and her pup use the other sea creatures in the ocean to survive. And we need to think about how do they use those other sea creatures to survive. Excellent. You should have said something like they use those other sea creatures in their habitat, which is the ocean, for food, right? And we all know that animals need food to survive. I want you to take your pencil and I want you to circle 2 sea creatures that the sea otters use as food. Yeah, wonderful. So you kind of have circled the label clam, right? So I'm going to highlight it. You could have circled it. You could also, in the paragraph of the text, you could circle or highlight the word shellfish, right? So when we think about shellfish, we think about things, creatures or animals that have shells, that live in a shell, like a crab or a clam. Okay. As we keep reading, we're going to read to find out more ways that sea otters use their habitat to help them survive. Let's keep reading. Time for dinner. Once the mother sea otter finds a clam, she swims back up to the water's surface. Excellent. If you remembered to read the word surface out loud with me, you did an excellent job. If you forgot, let's go back and reread. Here we go. Ready? Starting on the word once. Once the mother sea otter finds a clam, she swims back up to the water's surface. Excellent. She also brings a rock with her and lays it on her belly. Then she smashes the clam onto the rock to open its shell. The mother otter and the pup share the clam meat. Oh, I just read about how the sea otter uses something in her habitat to help her survive, right? So we know that the animals use the other shellfish and the sea creatures in the ocean like clams and crabs and other shellfish to eat, but they also use something else to help them gather the meat from those shellfish. What do they use? Circle it in your text. If you circled the word rock, right, you are correct. Sea otters use rocks to help them crack open those shells so they can get the food they need to survive. Excellent. Here in the photograph, we see more labels, right? We see a clam right here in the mother otter's hands. Here we see the mother otter and her sea otter pup sharing food, right? The mother otter, here's the clam meat, here's the mother otter, and here's her pup. Let's keep reading. Good night. When it is time to sleep, an adult sea otter sometimes wraps seaweed around its body. The seaweed, called kelp, is attached to the ocean floor. It holds the otter in one place. This keeps the waves from carrying the otter out into the ocean. Sometimes the mother otter also wraps kelp around the pup as it sleeps on her chest. I just read another example of how a sea otter uses other things in its habitat to survive. So I want you to think about what resource in a sea otter's habitat do they use while they are sleeping? I want you to tell the person sitting next to you, what do the sea otters use to help them as they are sleeping? Excellent. So I could have heard you say something like, the sea otter uses seaweed or kelp as they are sleeping. Now I want you to go back into the text and I want you to underline the sentence that tells us how. Why is it that the sea otters use the seaweed or kelp? How does it help them survive? Go ahead and underline it or highlight it in your text. Excellent. So if I were sitting next to you, I might have seen that you chose this sentence down here that says, it holds the otter in one place. And this keeps the waves from carrying the otter out into the ocean, right? So what that tells me is that the sea otters use this kelp or seaweed to kind of anchor them as they're sleeping, right? So they don't float out into the ocean. I want you to make an inference here. And I want you to think about, what does that prevent? Why wouldn't it be very helpful for a sea otter to float out into the middle of the ocean? What could happen that might be dangerous or prevent them from surviving? You might have said something like, there are other predators in the ocean that might use the sea otter as prey, and those predators may be found in the middle of the ocean. And so if the sea otters float into the middle of the ocean, they might be in danger from some of those other predators. Okay, let's keep reading. Growing up. When a pup is between 6 and 12 months old, it leaves its mother. It knows how to dive underwater, hunt for food. It knows how to dive underwater to hunt for food. It can use rocks to crack open shellfish. The pup is now ready to begin its grown-up life. Excellent. So we read in our text today. Thank you for doing such a great job reading along with me and answering those questions and annotating in your text. Now it's your turn. What I would like for you to do now is, with a grown-up at your house, I want you to pull out your take-home packet, turn to the Monday response activity, and I want you to use the information from the text that we talked about today to answer that Read to Find Out question of, how do sea otters use their habitat to survive? Make sure you're using lots of examples from the text to help you in your response. All right. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a couple days with your family. I will be back in a couple of days to read your second myBook text along with you. All right. Nice to see you. Bye.
Bye.